Uh, we've been really devastated by the news of Claude's death cycling, especially too that Wanda was with him and but she probably was glad to be with him in that situation, as awful as it was. And there may be some folks online who, could you move to the next slide, Claude? Let's go back to the prayer requests. Yeah, there we go. Pauline, are there any prayer requests you know of? Okay, so send those in as they're needed. So let's move to the next picture. There we go. So maybe some don't know Claude as well, so I just want to read a little bit from his obituary because it gives a lot of information that I didn't know, and I knew him, right? So Dr. Claude Rocky, that's his nickname, Liman, was struck and passed away as a result of a vehicle accident while cycling with his partner Wanda. Born May 7th, 1943 in Westchester, New York, Claude was the eldest of 3 children of Edwin and Luella Liman. He is dearly missed by his partner Wanda, his brother Sandy, and his sister Dusty, son Ben, daughters Sarah and Rebecca, and his grandson Grayson. He was recently predeceased by his son Jesse Liman of Thunder Bay. Claude was a lifelong active golfer, cyclist, marathoner, and downhill and cross-country skier, competing on the Dartmouth ski team and completing the American Birkebeiner ski race for several years. A Dartmouth College alumni, he completed his PhD in Colorado. He emigrated to Canada and was an American literature professor teaching at Lakehead University in Thunder Bay between 1973 and 2005. Is that Wanda? Oh, Wanda, God love you. During which he published several books of poetry and short stories. Claude was a poet, and I'm going to read one poem and then another poem later that was one of his favorite poems in talking about life and creation and death and new life. This is a poem called A Day by Emily Dickinson. I'll tell you how the sun rose, a ribbon at a time. The steeples swam in amethyst. The news like squirrels ran. The hills untied their bonnets, the bobolinks, that's songbirds, begun. Then I said softly to myself, that must have been the sun. But how he set, I know not. There seemed a purple stile, which little yellow boys and girls were climbing all the while, till when they reached the other side, a dominie in gray put gently up the evening bars and led the flock away. Now, I'm going to do something that English professors hate, and I'm going to read a paraphrase of that poem, so you get all of it. And you see one of the great talents of people like Claude, poets. They can pack so much into a verse, the verse that I just read. Here's the paraphrase of everything that was in there, which I missed half of it when I read it myself. I know how the sun rose, and I will share that knowledge with you. The sun showed 4 rays of light, and I'm going to explain them one by one. The first ray went to the town and gave it blue light, so it looked like a body of water. The tops of churches were swimming in that body of water. The second ray went to the land animals. The squirrels found the second ray and spread the news as fast as they were running. The third ray went to the landscape. The hills released their cloud of light or morning mist and made themselves visible as if they had untied their bonnet. The fourth ray went to the birds. The bobolinks sang. After hearing the bobolinks sing on the 4th day, I knew that was the sun. Even though I knew how the sun rose, I don't know how the sun set. In the direction of the sunset there appeared purple clouds in the formation of rungs of a ladder. The parts of the sunlight were little boys and girls climbing one by one over that ladder to jump on the other side. Once all the boys and girls jumped over the purple ladder, a sunset-colored schoolmaster raised the fence posts so that neither the children nor I could climb the ladder to switch ways. Over there, the schoolmaster and the children are like the shepherd and a flock of sheep. I'm not with the flock at sunset, as the shepherd leads these sheep away. And of course, we mentioned, Wanda, I don't know when you came in, that our thoughts and prayers are with you. We love you and appreciate you so much. And we celebrate that Claude had you in his life. You were like the best thing going. And he just drew so much joy and comfort from his relationship with you. And that's something to feel great about. And then recently, Claude's son Jesse passed away. And this is an example of grace. Claude and Jesse had some struggles over the year. They'd become closer. And when Claude came back from Jesse's funerals, he wrote a letter to some friends and to the Thursday morning small group that he was a part of. And so I just want to read a little bit of that as we can celebrate the grace that came to Claude during that difficult time. And it speaks how grace comes to us in our difficult times. He writes, "Hello, friends and family. Before you read about the 2 Thunder Bay services we held for Jesse, I want to tell you about 1 week in the North, a week which turned out to be, excuse the pun, the opposite of funereal. In spite of our trip's purpose, it felt good to be on the road after months of COVID-19 confinement. Wanda and I hung out with Ellen, my very brave and kind ex-wife, who fed us royally. She and Wanda became good friends. We bonded with Tony, Jesse's partner, who gave Wanda the best haircut styling she's ever had. We hiked and biked, and I showed Wanda all my Thunder Bay haunts. On the way up, Wanda said that she didn't want any of Ellen's cats to get in our room. I said, sure, no problem, knowing it would be impossible to keep them out. But Wanda made friends with Buddy, Charcoal, and Sophie, and now she says she misses them. We held 2 funeral services for Jesse, in the course of which Tony became a member of the family, calling Ellen his mother-in-law and giving me a surprise Father's Day card signed Jesse and Tony. A trip that could have been sad turned out to be healing." Now, I want to share a poem that Claude wrote. He wrote this poem when his son Jesse was 5 years old, when Jesse was his apprentice on the hill. It's called "On the Hill with Jesse." Soil brewed from leaves and grass and staggered bins across the hill. Much solo effort and no blueprint. It just grew and grew till now you are with me. I've never really been here before, only worked like a convict, wiping the sleeve across my face and glancing between sun rays at what could not support staring. But now I stare at you on my hill. This is our long-awaited Sabbath, our day to cast off prison stripes, rest oars in the oarlocks, spit cherry pits over the bow. Let's run thumbs beneath our suspenders, smoke victory cigars, and squint far astern. Roll with me downhill to the swamp filled in by bulldozer before you were born. Let's drink the lost duck pond into our clothes by slow osmosis. What a good clack we made with our dueling sticks. Now I know why ground was built. And his son Ben sent us a thank you for the remembrance of Claude's death last Sunday. And so I'd like to share that with you. My father loved singing with this choir so much. He would send me links very regularly to invite me to watch him sing, something I wish he had discovered his love for long ago. It brought him such joy. He and I never sang together, but we planned to. I am deeply grateful that I thought to turn to this channel tonight. I hoped there might be a mention of him, but my heart is broken and overflowing at the love and remembrance you have provided. His children, son Ben, daughter Sarah, his first and second born, are finding our own uncertain footing through this, and we send love to Rebecca, Wanda, and hope, as was shared here, that my father and half-brother Jesse are both enjoying the comfort that reunions with loved ones bring to the heart and spirit. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for this demonstration of love and kindness that speaks to the fellowship and love he enjoyed with you. Wonderful. And then his daughter Sarah sent us a note. A loving goodbye to my father as he takes his next steps into the never-ending worlds of creation. My dad was happiest in nature, engaging with the land on feet, skis, bike, and then sharing his thoughts and reflections through the powerful writing through which so many knew him. His words were his most natural vehicle through his life, and he excelled as poet of no small renown. As he moved into his later years, he embraced singing again, found new parts of himself through meditation, and always present was his love of growing, garden, soil, and the satisfaction of turning a piece of land into a living tapestry of green and vibrant life, which responded so well to his love of the natural world. I think she's got some of her dad's gifts. And then we also remember especially Rebecca, because the congregation here has known her so well over the years. And so we send out our love to her and Jacqueline and keep them in our prayers. And of course, his daughter got it right. He loved the outdoors and sports and being active and cycling and this gardening thing. And so we have these sunflowers here that Pauline's put up in honor of Claude. And in fact, what's the next slide here? No, that's weird. Okay, there we go. No, go back. Go back. There we go. Okay. All right, so Claude came up with the idea of a community garden here. And I want to tell you, you've got a great council here. In 2 weeks, they were able to look at that, make sure it wasn't going to be a burden to the congregation, and approve it. And my experience with churches is they usually take 6 months to a year to do something like that, and by the time they approve something, the people who want to do it in the first place are bored and have left the idea. And it's become everything that Claude and I hoped it would be, because it's not only a place where some of our own folks garden, but some of the neighbors are gardening too. And they've gotten to know each other. And Claude has that natural outgoing ability, right, in the smile, and gets them all talking together. And Pauline has that great ability too. And so some of the folks who've been, some of our gardeners out there have sent their expressions of sympathy, and so I'd like to read them too. Our own Luciana writes, "We were quite shocked and extremely sad with the news during service on Sunday. Mark was in the Gainsborough area last Saturday and saw the road closed. He immediately thought of a friend that lives and cycles in that area, but could never imagine it was Claude. We will miss him and his green thumb, Luciana." And then Paula, who doesn't come to the congregation but's a part of the garden, wrote, "I am sorry to hear this news. My thoughts are with Claude's family and those of you at Mount Zion mourning his loss." And then Diana Cole, along with her husband, Ben, and 3 children. This is their 2nd year with our garden. we are sad to hear the passing of Claude. Our thoughts and prayers to his family and your church family. We appreciated his passion of gardening and the time he used to make this happen for the community. And then Nathan sent a wonderful reflection. I'm so glad to have you here, Nathan. And I just want to share it because it says a lot. Terrible news came to me today that my friend died recently, earlier this week, suddenly while riding his bicycle with his wife here in London, hit by a pickup truck. That man was Claude. Claude was an old man, and I didn't know much about him for a few years. I would watch and listen to him sing in the choir, him with that low voice that seemed to keep everything together. People warned me about him that he was a bit stubborn and bossy. I didn't hold it against him. He would shake my hand once in a while and ask how I was doing at the church. 3 years ago, we started a community garden, not knowing much about plants and gardening, but it turned out that Claude did. Claude and I would meet in the community garden 2 and 3 times a month, even more, spending hours together for those 3 years, turning the dirt, planting the seeds, weeding together to keep the sunflowers and the bean stalks upright along with our own veggies. Our garden plots were next to each other. We didn't say much to each other. We didn't talk about the news or cars or this or that. We just talked about plants and the weather. I was never nervous to ask him questions about gardening, and he was never hesitant to answer or to show me the ways in the soil. I never thought to take a picture with Claude because I never thought that he would be so suddenly just gone like that. Claude was a smart, patient, kind man. Whenever he spoke, he gave you the feeling that it was a good thing to listen to him, because for me, he always had something valuable to say. Claude didn't grow the sunflowers for himself, he told me. He grew them for everyone, to help keep the garden looking happy. Rest in peace, Claude. I've never planted or grown a sunflower before, but I'll be sure those sunflowers grow every year, not just for everyone else, but for you. And Jan has put a beautiful memorial sign up by the garden, and that's so appropriate. So to kind of sum up, I experienced Claude to be a very passionate person, a deep soul. He was simple in the sense that he could have a beer with anybody and relate to them. But he was also a complex man. And whatever short-temperedness he might have came from his childhood issues of pain. But what I appreciated about Claude is he always took responsibility for himself and his actions. And he always kept learning. And he had a deep and profound faith in the Creator. And his spirituality continued to develop. And he didn't suffer fools gladly. But if he knew you were sincere, he had the greatest love and patience for you. And Claude, I think, points out to us something that it's really important for us to realize. Too often, we put so much pressure on ourselves to be perfect, when really what we really want from each other is some simple honesty, compassion, and love. That's why one of my favorite Bible verses is from the book of James. It says, love covers our sins. Isn't that beautiful? We don't care about whatever mistakes our loved ones might have made if we know they love us. And so we felt Claude's love for life, for his family, for us, and we loved him. And so I'm going to close this celebration of Claude's life with a poem, his favorite poem, on death, by Jane Kenyon. It's called Let Evening Come. Let evening come. Let the light of late afternoon shine through the chinks in the barn, moving up the bales as the sun moves down. Let the cricket take up chafing as a woman takes up her needles and her yarn. Let evening come. Let dew collect on the hoe abandoned in long grass. Let the stars appear and the moon disclose her silver horn. Let the fox go back to its sandy den. Let the wind die down. Let the shed go black inside. Let evening come. To the bottle in the ditch, to the scoop in the oats, to the air in the lung, let evening come. Let it come as it will, and don't be afraid. God does not leave us comfortless, so let evening come.